Should isolated tribes be untouched forever? Well, that's exactly what the inhabitants of the Andaman island of North Sentinel want. They're so lost to the idea of civilization and quite literally resistant to any progression. Let's dare to find out why this island is considered so lethal for the rest of humanity. From a few isolated communities around the world, none is more isolated than North Sentinel Island, which is home to the Sentinelese, a small tribe of hunter-gatherers who have lived there in isolation for tens of thousands of years. This island, roughly the same size as Manhattan, is surrounded by coral reefs and dense jungle. The Sentinelese have no knowledge of the outside world and are stuck in the hunter-gatherer stage of evolution with their use of only basic tools like bows and arrows. It could still be the Stone Age for them. They're also considered one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. The Indian government respects the Sentinelese's wishes and prohibits any contact with them. This is to protect both the tribe and outsiders. The island is roughly 8 kilometers long and 7 kilometers wide, with an area of about 60 square kilometers. They're totally unaware of the heavily active city of Port Blair, which is just 50 kilometers east of North Sentinel Island, with over 140,000 residents. Port Blair is the capital of the Andaman Islands in India and has a significant naval base and even regular flights connecting it to mainland India. It's a very modern city living up to the standards of the 21st century, making the clear contrast with the ancient way of life on North Sentinel Island even more striking. Although many did try to make contact with the islanders of North Sentinel over the years, it was all but a failure because the Sentinelese, as we mentioned earlier, live in their own world and view everyone else a potential threat to their survival. There are reported cases of the Sentinelese choosing to extremely defend their contactless policy by attempting to attack and kill anyone coming near the island. According to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation 1956, approaching the island for more than 9.3 kilometers is prohibited and the Indian Navy patrols the area. However, a 26-year-old American named John Allen Chow arrived in Port Blair in October 2018. He then spent 11 days in isolation to ensure he wasn't carrying any diseases before going on a risky mission of contacting the Sentinelese people to introduce them to Christianity. The Sentinel Island, as said by John, was Satan's last stronghold on Earth. While his goal was simple, the execution was incredibly complex and dangerous. He bribed the local fishermen and tried to illegally move into the island, evading the patrol by the Indian Army. The ancestors of the Sentinelese are believed to have been among the first humans to migrate from Africa to Asia around 50,000 to 75,000 years ago. They likely reached the Andaman Islands about 26,000 years ago when sea levels were much lower. Over thousands of years, rising levels isolated the islands and the Sentinelese became cut off from the rest of the world. A penal code was established by the British in the Andaman Islands in 1789, which eventually became modern Port Blair. At that time, about 7,000 indigenous people were living on the island, including the Sentinelese. The first known contact with the Sentinelese occurred in the summer of 1867 when an Indian merchant ship named the Nineveh was wrecked on a reef near North Sentinel. 86 passengers and 20 crewmen made it to shore. On the third day of the island, according to survivor statements, they were attacked by members of the Sentinelese tribe. They fought off the Sentinelese with sticks and stones, and they were finally rescued by the British Royal Navy. This encounter set the tone for future interactions, which were marked by violence and hostility. In 1880, British Administrator Maurice Vidal Portman led an expedition to the island, kidnapping an elderly couple and 4 children. He took them to Port Blair, but the elderly couple died of disease, and Portman returned the children to the island, leaving gifts. No wonder they hate us, right? Yep. This incident probably fueled the tribe's distrust and hostility towards outsiders. Their association with outsiders has brought them nothing but harm, and it's a matter of great regret to me that such a pleasant race are so rapidly becoming extinct, he said in an address to London's Royal Geographical Society. This hate that took root from Portman's actions was disturbingly presented in 1896 when an Indian convict escaped from the penal colony at Port Blair on a temporary raft and made his way to the beach of North Sentinel. When a search party arranged by the British for his discovery found that in search of his freedom, he was struck with ill fate as he was found dead a few days later on the island's beach with numerous piercings by arrows and a sliced throat. It's true that throughout the 20th century, several attempts were made to establish peaceful contact with the Sentinelese. Among these, the major credit goes to a 1967 Indian anthropologist, Triloknath Pandit, who began sailing around the island with the local police, leaving gifts in an effort to gain the tribe's trust. They were watching us carefully, and they must not have been happy because they picked up their bows and arrows, he told the New York Times. He stated the thrill behind his experience by saying that this whole encounter was so amusing because here is civilized man facing primitive man in its extreme state, living very simply. There was even an approach by a National Geographic team in 1974, accompanied by armed police, who tried to film a documentary about the Sentinelese called Men in Search of Man. Some of the policemen went to the shore wearing armor and left gifts such as coconuts and toys, then returned to the boat. The Sentinelese continued to shoot arrows at them, hitting the film director in the thigh. However, despite his setbacks, which started in 1967, Pandit continued his efforts, making many visits and leaving gifts over the years. By 1991, there was a breakthrough. During a routine gift drop, the Sentinelese approached the boat and accepted the gifts directly for the first time. This moment, captured in a photograph, marked the climax of 24 years of Pandit's work. In 1992, when Pandit retired, the Indian government banned all future visits to the island. A really noteworthy event for the Sentinelese was when the Primrose cargo ship struck a nearby coral reef in 1981, shipwrecking 28 sailors for nearly 2 weeks. The sailors were later found to have survived and were rescued by the means of a helicopter. The ship was taken apart by the Sentinelese for their use. Future expeditions to the island revealed the Sentinelese used metal forks possibly fashioned from the ship's remains. This is the image of the wreck as shown by Google Maps. Despite the ban in 1992, accidental and illegal encounters still occurred. In 2006, 2 Indian fishermen, Sundarraj and Pandit Tiwari, were killed and buried by the Sentinelese after their boat drifted too close to the island. Only one of these bodies was retrieved, and that too while under attack from the islanders. Is it really odd that such a primitive community exists? We'd love to hear your own thoughts about this. If you have any more information on North Sentinel Island, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments down below. Like and subscribe for more such intriguing stories. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.